Welcome to the Retro Asylum podcast.
I think I've got the questions up.
What?
The questions. Sorry. Hey, Jim. Hey, everyone.
I didn't know if we was going to restart that.
No, we're not starting. We're going with this. We're rolling with this one. Yeah.
I was waiting for the interruption. Then it never came. And
then it did. This went off on a weird tangent. I've got the questions up to say. Yeah.
I'm Jim Middleton, and as you can tell, I'm here with Chris O'Regan. How are we doing, Chris?
I am well. Chris 1.0 in the house. Did I say that out loud with that sense of irony? I think I did.
I think you did, yeah.
I think I did.
Very special episode we've got coming up today. We've got an interview with Marcin Paczyński and Adam Ziółkowski from Good Old Games, or GOG as they are known these days. So stay tuned for that.
It's quite an incredible interview, actually. They do talk in great detail about the efforts they're putting into preserve games, my friends. Things that we take for granted. That's not true. None of us take this stuff for granted. In fact, we're the least amount of we spend so much agonizing time over going, is this work still? I'm not sure. Is this still playable? That kind of stuff. So no, it's definitely a very illuminating interview with the people behind GOG. And it's great that they exist, because without them, things would be worse. Definitely confirm that.
And obviously they're continuing work, which they go into.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just we've done it now, we can move on, we've preserved everything. It's just continuing mission.
So, Jim, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I have been playing some high score games on the arcade cab, mate. Badly, very badly.
Was this for the game, not game club, because that doesn't exist. High score club.
Club? Yeah, I thought we'll go with
is
that.
This? Yeah. It's the oh God, Mr. Do.
Mr. Do's Castle.
There you go, Mr. Do's Castle. Not Mr. One. Do, Mr. Do's Castle.
Mr. Do's Castle. The second one in the Mr. Do series.
Is this there's a series? That's a new one for me. So how are you getting on with it? Because I haven't started or attempted, because I'm terrible at arcade games and scoring generally. But have you found it?
Frustrating, I think, is probably the best way of summing up. I'm currently sort of mid-table in amongst, I think we've got around 13 or 14 players for this one. For anyone that's not played it, obviously it's an arcade game, platformer. You navigate a castle, moving ladders around and taking on these vicious unicorns that are trying to catch you as you go. You collect keys as you go, and the big thing with it changes how it plays. So the first two levels, for anyone that hasn't played it, you have a hammer and you hammer the enemies through the floor. That is
one of those.
That is taken away from you from level 3. So you kind of, for the first couple of levels, you build up an idea of how you're going to attack a level, and that's then taken away from level 3. And then you have to completely rethink how you're going to approach the game. And I've struggled with that a little bit. I've had a couple of really sort of good runs where it's just clicked, and that's where I've got my high score. But I mean, some of the scores that are on there, Monster Hyde's gone over 100,000. HeavyMetalDon's not far behind him. So I mean, there's videos on the Discord as well that the guys have posted, sort of showing tips. So it is there if you're willing to put the time in. But my God, is it hard? My word!
I've got to shout out our Discord community. They keep just keep pulling out the bag and just throwing themselves into whatever stuff we chuck at them. Here's this weird Mr. Do game that no one's played. Okay, let's have a go. Oh, look, all of the points, all of them. How many points do you need them? Yeah. All of them.
I have found as well, I sort of hammer it for the first couple of weeks of the month, and then I'm looking at the next month's game. So then that distracts me for a little bit. And by the time I come back at the end of the month to sort of have another go, the scores are just unobtainable.
Yeah.
For me anyway. But there we go. Yeah. And also I've been playing Wind Waker. So obviously I was playing Tears of the Kingdom over on playthrough. Put into over 100 hours on that. That's not enough Zelda, so I've started Wind Waker, which is part of the community playthrough game, again on the Discord. So get yourself involved in that. Still holds up. Great game, but a really different experience coming back to something so linear. It's a tricky one, isn't it, Wind Waker, because it is linear in terms of the story, but it's open in terms of how you navigate the world. So it has got a lot of comparisons with something. Are
you
like
playing this on the Switch? Because they did re-release it on the Switch, didn't they? Am I going mad?
Wii U. It got a re-release on the
Wii U. Okay.
Where they cleared up a lot of issues with the Triforce Quest and things like that. But no, I'm playing it on the GameCube. I've gone down a bit of rabbit hole with the GameCube. I've had that set up on the desk next to me on the CRT, and it's the first time that I've gone through the GameCube game since way back when. It's been nice.
Okay, well, speaking for myself, I've been pretty much doing the thing that I decided to do at the beginning of the year. I gave myself a little phrase which rhymed with the year, keeping it alive in 25.
Keeping it alive in 25.
Keeping it alive in 25.
I thought it was going to be like 5 alive in 25.
No, keeping it alive in 25. So basically, I'm doing maintenance to the hardware that I have to make sure that anything that I can do to make sure it has a longer life than it ought to have, I'm doing. And one of the things I've done is I've replaced the clock batteries in 2 consoles, and I'm about to do it on a third. So the first 2 consoles I did it to was the GameCube and the PlayStation 2 Slim. So the GameCube was much more complicated than the PlayStation 2 Slim. So the GameCube requires a soldering iron because you have to desolder the battery they had in there. And that was relatively painless, actually. There wasn't a lot of solder.
Not a standard CR2032.
Well, it is, but they soldered it onto the board.
I think the Dreamcast was the same when I did the battery on that.
Yeah, kind of. We'll come to that in a minute because that's the third one. So thanks for spoiling it, Jim. Gosh. So I popped that off. There wasn't a lot of solder. When I put a new one on, but rather than soldering the battery on, which is what I actually put a battery holder and then pop that in, so I can then replace it at will when I need to. So that's lovely. So when I turn the GameCube on now, it doesn't ask for the time and date. It goes, you're all good. So it's fantastic.
Mine does. So
But you do need to do it. It's like I said, when I soldered the new one on, I went a bit OT on over the top on the solder. But that's what you do, doesn't it? Because you just want to make sure that you got it on. So there's a bit of a blob of solder for the legs, much more than there was Nintendo put on in the factory. But it's fine. It works. It's solid. Now the PlayStation 2 simply required unscrewing the back, popping it open, unplugging the battery, no solder required, tossing it out, and then putting a brand new one in, then closing it back up again, and then setting a time. Done. So if you have a PlayStation 2, you're fine. You're golden. All you got to do is look up replacement batteries on eBay or Amazon. You'll send it over to you. It's fine, and you just swap it over. And it's just, it's not vital because all it does is date stamp all your saves. But I like that. So
I don't think I've ever had a issue with my time date on my PS2.
It's very, very old.
Super battery in there.
Yeah, it is. What you'll find is if you turn it on and there's the swirly, the swirly sort of pattern that goes around with. If that's not swirling, the battery's dead.
Right.
It's so Sony, isn't it?
Fire it up after we finish it. And I'll just have a look.
If it's not swirling, it means the battery's dead. So that's and then the last one is the Dreamcast, which I'm going to be doing. That's a very different beast. You've done it, you know what it's like. It's similar to the GameCube one. It's a couple of cables you've got to unplug, pop it out, and then I was just going to sort of desolder the back. I think it just plops out because there's not a lot of solder there. And then I've got a new one, but it's got to be rechargeable battery, everyone. So if you're doing Dreamcast, be wary. It's an ML 2032, not just a regular, because the Dreamcast recharges the battery as it's running, so which is very Sega-like. So, and it's worth looking into the you can get like the resetting fuse. So with the Dreamcast, obviously, if you pull that controller out while there's power on, there's a chance you can blow the fuse. But I know you can get resetting ones now. Yeah. I haven't delved into doing too much. I need to though because it's loud. And I've cleaned the fans and stuff, but they're still loud. And I think
I got a Noctua fan in mine,
Yeah, I should do that because I do need to refurbish it. But anyway, that's me. And I'm also playing Dark Cloud, which is an old PS2 RPG, very strange one. You basically go, it's more an action adventure. No, it's not an RPG, it's an action adventure. Initially, anyway. Eventually, you fill out a party of people and you start building up their stats and stuff. But maybe it's an RPG. I don't know. Anyway, it's very much
like a Zelda action RPG.
Initially, it starts off, but the weird thing is you go into dungeons and then you find things in the dungeon like buildings that have been stolen, and you go back up to the surface and you rebuild the building. It's like SimCity. It's just weird, but it's really interesting, and I'm having a great time with it. I'm playing on the PS4 because they re-released it on the PS4, but I do have the original. I did play it back in the day on the original PlayStation 2, so I'm going to sort of swap between the two and see how different they are, but I don't think they're very different at all. They basically just like, I think they've done some quality of life changes to it, but ultimately it's still the same experience. So yeah, Dark Cloud, that's been fun to play.
Does that have achievements with it and things as well then?
No, they don't do that. No, at least not as far as I'm aware. Maybe I'm playing so badly that I haven't got any yet, but who knows? Won't put it past me. But yeah, so, and one of the things I did do, and then we'll switch over now to the interview as we sort of trail off into the sunset, Jim and I, and then we'll go to our past selves because we're recording this after we've done the interview because time, everyone. Anyway, I decided to get a lot of games, which is always a bad idea, but this is a different thing, a lot of games onto the Spectrum. Because I've got that USB stick from Crash, that micro drive looking USB stick, which is a bit chunky, and I had a mass of tap files, right? Huge. I think it's almost, you can never have the full collection of Spectrum games. That's possibly impossible to do, but there's a lot of them. And I had a terrible cold. My head was sort of spinning. So I thought, what can I do that's relatively simple without me actually losing my brain? Because I was having a massive head cold. And I basically got all these, because the limitation on the Spectrum with games, I don't know if you know this, but each each folder in your USB stick can't have any more than 250 odd games in it. Otherwise, it doesn't see them or just collapses or can't read it. This is what I understand. I think Dean told me this. So I had to go through all these files. So I had to go through every directory and making sure there was no more. Sorry, every folder. So I keep calling directories. Every folder. There was
a few when it came out. There was a few tutorials go up, weren't there? About this. Yeah.
About this. Yeah. So the problem is that a lot of games were like some games were like, if you looked at that Q, for example, I didn't need to do it because it wasn't any more than that amount, 150 games with the letter Q beginning. But if you go to S, oh my God, it's like thousands. It's called the beginning of the letter S. So I've had to create like subfolders of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 10. But the reason I'm talking about this is because it worked, Jim. Because I basically did it all, copied it onto the USB, shoved it into the back into the Spectrum, and I was playing all these games, and I was playing full throttle for ages. Like, yeah, it freaking works, to quote Adrian Black. So wasn't easy because it's thousands of games, and I know we generally don't like doing that, but this is the Spectrum, and it just means that it just gives me a chance that when you see a game or you think about a game and go, oh, I can just jump on the Spectrum and
fire it up,
and it's there, and I'm off I go. This is someone who owns a lot of Spectrums, original Spectrum. So, yeah, still really rate that machine. I've seen some people dump on it. I don't know why. There's some strange folk out, but I think it's a remarkable piece of device that I strongly recommend. So, yeah, big thumbs up for me.
Good stuff. It's all part of this digital preservation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like we touched on, like, these machines aren't going to last forever. You can recap them and all the rest of it, but they will eventually break down and stop working.
Stop working. And, the Z80 is no longer made, and all these custom chips, they're going to stop making them because they don't need to make them anymore. Yeah. So anyway, sorry, nice, like the segue, Jim. Do you want to introduce the interview then?
Yes, I will do. Let's welcome in to the Retro Asylum, Marcin Paczyński and Adam Ziółkowski from Good Old Games.
Hello, Adam and Marcin. Could introduce yourselves? That would be great.
Hello, my name is Marcin. Thank you for having us. I am a senior biz dev at GOG. Been with the company since the very beginning in 2008. And I am here with Adam, my colleague from the technical team. Adam.
Yeah, hi, I'm Adam. Like Marcin said, I am with the technical production team responsible for bringing games to GOG whenever we are tasked with delivering the builds on our end.
So, the GOG program, preservation program, a laudable goal, and one that's sort of restoring or preserving what's been made over the last 30, 40, 50 years of video game and computer game history. But one of the key things we need to determine, I think, is how big of an issue is this? How much of a problem do we face in terms of the inaccessible library of games? Is it 50%, 20%, 90% of games that we can't get hold of now that in order to restore them, to bring them back? What's the scale of the problem, really, Marcin?
Yeah, it's actually bigger than what we thought it is when we started this whole thing. And as an example, in 2023, there was a study conducted by the Video Game History Foundation. And according to that study, 87% of classic games ever released in the United States before 2010, I believe, are not available. And it's a staggering number. And to be perfectly honest, the first time I heard about it, I didn't really believe it. But what happens sometime after is that we have at GOG we have gaming magazines from the 90s. In Poland, they were called there was Gambler and Secret Service, like the two main ones.
Top Secret, yeah,
and top, yeah, also Top Secret. So I basically opened at some point a random magazine from the 80s, and I was browsing it. From the 90s, I was browsing it, and basically I realized that over half of those games there, and we are talking PC only, are not available anywhere. So yeah, that number of 87%, if we take into consideration all of the games from all of the platforms, that seems to be really accurate.
And I suppose it's not just the games, is it? It's all those documents that go with the games, the development stories and notes and the builds and everything else that goes with that.
Yeah, exactly that. Whenever we are, bringing a game back and releasing it on GOG, we really try to preserve absolutely everything that is still available for that game. The manual is basically the baseline, right? Mm-hmm. But also things some kind of reference documents or something from that was created during the game development, like scripts, game design documents, and so on and so forth. They're rarely available. However, we do have a lot of games on GOG with those still there. There is even a couple of sketches, game design sketches with that were scanned with coffee stains on them, something like that. It's super cool. But yeah, it's not easy, because the older the game is, the harder the less likely it is that those games still exist. However, we are really doing the best we can, and also our community helps a lot here. Yeah. Even after we release a game, we are contacted by guys from our community that say, I have this that was released only, I don't know, in Spain. I will be happy to either send it over to you to digitalize it, or I can do it myself, and so on and so forth. So it's whenever we are releasing a game on GOG, it's never a closed topic, so to speak. We are adding things as we either discover them ourselves, or our users are helping them and helping us with bringing those back. So yeah, it's a process, so to speak. It never ends.
Yeah. And you mentioned the Video Game History Foundation there. I know their research tool has just gone online in the last sort of month. So I'm guessing you're talking to all those guys as well, and it's all working to build up this researched all this portfolio of video game history, isn't it?
Yes. They are continuously working on this because, like I said, it's a battle that basically never ends. We, as a GOG, we also started to at the end of the last year, and this is also a plan for the future, to be more involved with organizations like that. Like, for example, last month we officially joined EFGAM, which is the European Federation of Video Game Archives, Museums and Preservation Project. So yeah, it's a long one. But that is basically like the main organization in the European Union that has a lot of members that are committed to game preservation, and we are talking about members like museums, and we are also talking about members that are like, for example, things I until recently didn't even know existed. Like, for example, Embracer has its like a cell, so to speak, small cell that is basically just focused on game preservation. They're buying, they're acquiring physical copies of those games and basically buying as many materials as possible. They are in the video that we made last month talking about their collection, and it's absolutely impressive. So yeah, it's a battle, but thankfully we have a lot of allies here.
Yeah, good.
So when we get those successful landings, when you actually do find something, there is the issue of, well, we can only describe it as data rot, as in the media has actually started to deteriorate. And most people are familiar with magnetic media deteriorating. Usually it's mold and stuff that starts appearing, and moisture and all sorts of, even the most air-contained space, they do deteriorate because of the nature of the medium. But there's also optical media. People don't really know about that, but that does also deteriorate. Rust, doesn't it? There's the paint used inside and they start to rust. What have you done how have you found data recovery? Are you going out to specialists on data recovery to get this stuff? Is it as bad? Or how much effort are you putting into that? Or are you just trying to source another copy if you can?
Yeah, thankfully, we were always able to eventually find a working copy till now. So that thankfully was never a big issue for us. It's what we are doing here is we are digitalizing all of those things. So, and the hope is that once it is digitalized, it's immortalized. What's in the internet, always in the internet, so to speak. So yeah, this is something what we are doing, but we are also thinking about taking a step further because there are certain technologies emerging that allow data to be preserved in maybe not indestructible, but very resilient form. But the technology works in a way that basically it's preserved in a crystal, and the lifespan of this is over 1,000 years of this data. So yeah, there are interesting technologies like that we are currently thinking about, utilizing to take even the next step in the area of having those games not only preserved digitally, but also within those crystals.
And I'm guessing this technology is also being used in like movie and music preservation and all that sort of those industries as well.
I think they are already using it for music. Not sure about the movies though, because it's really expensive right now per gigabyte. And the hope is that the price will go down to more manageable levels soon.
I suppose as that technology develops and becomes more accessible and cheaper.
Just wanted to mention that because I think it's a cool thing that recently happened, and we are basically looking into it.
Yes, you don't want
collection of.
It is a fantastic idea, but also the thought of you moving one set of data onto another set of perishable data medium. Like, so what are you doing? You're just kicking the can down the road? It's just, you do need to do something.
we would be kicking it 1,000 years in the future.
Yeah,
so
that's fine. That's fine. The crystal thing is fine. Yeah, but if you put it on another, mechanical hard drive, well, that's going to last, I don't know, 5 years. Tops. But that's not true. Mechanical drives last a lot longer. No one likes to talk about it, but they really do.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this sort of leads me on to another point. We already touched upon one of the queries we had about the enthusiast magazines, and certainly in the UK, we had loads. The Edge was still going. People still know what an Edge 10 is. Most people know. Oh, did they give it a 10? Did they? It's just that's a known magazine. And it's also, but there's a whole raft of magazines. They were huge in the 90s, and then something happened. I can't remember what. Oh, that's right, the internet. And then they all just basically imploded in on themselves. But yeah, there's still holdouts like the Edge, and we have, of course, in UK Retro Game, which is very, very popular, which has now ironically become Retro itself. But that's. But preserving that, that's part of the culture, isn't it? Sort of infusing that, creating. It's not just the games; there's also the medium around it. How have you found that? I mean, sort of expand a little bit more on that and sourcing those, because they're not all readily available. And some of them, you get them and go, "Why is it covered in biro markings and scribbles?"
Yeah, this is also part. I believe a huge part in the game preservation, but games in as a not a form of art specifically, but in general and everything that surrounds gaming, right? This entire culture, or you can say it. We can summarize it as a culture preservation. So all of these magazines from the time and so on and so forth. So we are currently not doing that. However, this is, I think, exactly what the organizations like the already mentioned Video Game History Foundation is doing. They are basically bringing those magazines and digitalizing them. They're also, they're actually doing a lot of stuff. They try to digitalize everything that they currently have, but there is still a lot to go. Like, for example, they have all of the Prima guides from the 90s. I don't know if you remember those.
Oh, yes, they did those amazing guides. The Zelda ones were amazing. But,
This is something, to be perfectly honest, that I would love to see connected to every game on GOG. If there was a Prima guide for it, just have it connected. And the reason is those things are incredible in terms of the amount of information about the game that it contains. It's truly incredible. All of the mechanics explained, like every little detail. So I really think that this is a huge part. They play a huge role in the game preservation, I think. So I really hope that at some point we'll be able to include those hefty few hundred pages manuals and guides to all of our games.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? You're not just selling a game; you're selling the whole experience, the whole package around that. And then from their end, if you're in their archives, reading about a game, you can then go out to GOG and get that game and that package around it. So yeah, it makes perfect sense.
It's part of the experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So there's something else as well that I've noticed. Certain part of our audience and community, including myself, have something called period computers. So, for example, I have a Windows 95 machine that runs DOS 7 and also Windows 95. So it's got a dual boot system, so I can run original games on it and DOS games to a point. Although the processor's too fast, it's a Pentium 133. So some games I can't deal with this. So I have to use various applications to slow it down. But the point being is these are period machines. What is you doing for those of us who are doing that, who are still using these machines, maintaining them, making sure they're running and working? And while actually actively preserving and helping us sort of still run these games in original hardware. What do you think GOG does? I know the answer to this one, but I want you to share it because I don't think people know this. And it's really important that you guys advertise this fact because most people don't know. So please do share with us.
I don't want to take this one.
I'll try to handle this one. So because
It's your expertise.
So like you said, those are period machines, and when it comes to DOS, we actually, for most of our games that are based on DOS, we are using DOSBox. So for those users that would like to move those games back to the old system, it's just a question of removing the DOSBox from the installation files, because then you just end up with a clean copy. With Windows-based games, it's actually a bit more difficult. We are looking into this. We are looking into bringing users also the untouched versions of those games. Right now, we are focusing on making sure that all of our games works on Windows 11 and 10. So we are moving back to our catalog and just double check if everything works. But further down the road, we want to again move back and make sure that we can bring back the original, because we are doing a lot of changes there. We are changing the exe files, we are changing registry entries and how the game behaves. We are adding themes, so those all compatible to those changes. And to actually to make the game playable again on the old machine, it's again a question of doing another build. And also, removing all those quirks, like when you would have to install the virtual CD, be able to install this. We need to remove it. So again, we need to basically prepare the same build as we would prepare for the new system, but it will work like a time machine and it would actually boot up Windows 5. So it's still a bit of work. So this is something that we'll definitely explore further, but now we are focusing on bringing it to Windows 10 and 11.
Is that something that years down the line, when Windows 12 and 13 and all the rest of it come down the line, and you've potentially got hundreds of games in the preservation catalog, you've got to then go through every single game again, or?
We need to. This will be the biggest challenge for the preservation program, I guess, once Windows 12 drops, because there might be a switch in the architecture, and this might make everything incompatible. So we don't yet have the answer to that, because we haven't seen what's happening with Windows 12 yet. But once we do, we actually will need to, because that's our promise. We will need to get back and adjust all of those games. Hopefully, there will be like the small number of solutions that we don't need to apply to the games, but it might be another adventure that we are now embarking on.
Yeah, we brainstormed a lot of potential things that might happen in the future, and we are very certain that we should be able to tackle all of the reasonable ones. It will be just a matter of time.
Yeah.
We have a lot of. This is actually one of the reasons we didn't start the preservation program earlier. We simply did not have the expertise and the tools and the technology needed to maintain that many games on such a scale. So right now we do through many things. One of the major ones is definitely our DirectX wrapper. It's basically our tech that is used on most of the, if not all of the Windows-based games. And what is basically doing is, translate. It's like an emulation layer or translation layer between DirectX 1 to 8, and it's translating it to DirectX 12. So we believe strongly that whatever happens in Windows 12, we'll be able to solve through the adjustments in the technologies that we already have. Even if the architecture changes, this will take simply a bit of more work, but still we should be able to do it on the scale that we promised.
Yeah, and it should be able, because we are using our tools, actually internal tools, and we all rely on third-party tools, of course, when there is no other solution. But we try to have stuff of our own, just to make sure we have control over it and can simply adjust quickly, like Marcin said.
Yeah,
I suppose it's getting to a stage where you're relying on virtual machines now for the 2005, 2006 OSs because you think, Vista or 7's not too different. Oh no, it is. Sorry, they've made some fundamental changes. They make completely different memory calls to everything. It's like, no, it's not going to work. So there's a naivety when everyone thinks that when 2002, 2003 hit with XP, it's fine. It's all like, no.
Yeah,
no.
Service
and we are already seeing the changes because Windows always had this compatibility tool on board. Since Windows 11, we noticed that some of the stuff is changed or being dropped. So we also need to adjust those configurations that we always used. So this is becoming a bit of a problem, but still manageable.
Yeah.
My name is Professor Thomas Goodhart, and I see the strong bond between families and digital pets every day. I also see the stress that they go through when they are worrying about their unwell virtual family pet member.
Dad, Terrence's Tamagotchi won't stop beeping. I think he's going to die.
Here at Virtual Souls Matter, we believe that your virtual family pet member truly deserves the very best care that you can or can't afford to give it. Even if your digital pet's batteries faded decades ago, we have the groundbreaking medical technology and the positive mental attitude needed to bring your loved virtual pets back from the other side, so that you can feel and share their love again.
Terrence seems better now. Thank you, Dad.
So, if your Tamagotchi, Digimon, or any other digital family pet member is in need of the very best medical care that money can buy, visit virtualsoulsmatter.com. Virtual pet insurance available soon. T's and C's apply.
So I want to talk about really the kind of platforms that the preservation program is focused on. I get the impression it's definitely very much a PC thing. I might be wrong about that. Just want a clarification on what is the scope, because I understand you could go nuts and you'll never get anything done. So clearly you've actually focused on a particular platform. Could you expand? Is it PC? Am I right in thinking Mac and PC and Linux?
Well, Patrick, if you want, you can take it.
It's a technical question, so you can take this one.
But you'll have a nice, afterthought. But currently we're actually, like you said, focusing on PC and PC games and only PC platform as a delivery platform. And preservation program actually also for now aims to be Windows focused. And most of the games that we actually have in the library are PC ports. Even if, like, we released Dino Crisis, it wasn't based on PS1 version. It was actually a PC version that was ported in '97, was it? Yes, that we took and adjusted. But there is more on the horizon, and Patrick, you might want to tell more about it.
Yeah, it's for now, our priority is to bring to the program all of the games that are already on VOG that we created the builds for. And we are talking about 2,000 games, over 2,000 games, actually, that are just waiting in the queue to be added. So that is our priority. We currently have like 106, I believe. And the goal is to have 500 by the end of the year, and hopefully after that the work will speed up. Because what we hope will happen is that with the growing popularity of the program, we will not only be able to speed things up and add those games quicker, but also we will be able to expand to other platforms as well. So not only macOS and Linux, but also, start looking into bringing console games to the program so that they are available on PC. So sky is the limit here for us. We would really love to have absolutely everything at some point, but it's a titanic endeavor, so to speak. So it's just the first step. It's just the first step.
Yeah, and it's what's really interesting is on that, and it's like an adjunct to what I'm talking about. Where a lot of our listeners, they love the Amiga, they love the Atari ST, and what have you. And there's now people making games for those platforms now, which isn't helping you. But for example, there's
just stop.
Could you stop? Just stop, please. But I know there's a thriving Atari ST community that still makes games for that incredible, important machine. It's quite interesting because there's a lot of libraries there that were drawn from there, and indeed some there was a time when the ST and Amiga was ahead of the PC, and there's like this
it was.
in terms of sound and graphics and stuff. So it's really interesting that period. It didn't last very long, I'll grant you that, definitely.
Yeah.
But it was there. It was about 3 or 4 years or so that it happened in the late 80s, early 90s. It was like, and then Doom arrived and everything.
There are a couple of games that have superior versions on Amiga.
Yeah.
For example, Dune.
Dune.
Dune 2 for sure, and a couple of other ones. Cannon Fodder, that one as well. Many actually, all of the games from that period, I would say. Having those also released on GOG from the Amiga versions, right?
Yeah,
would preserve a full experience, so to speak, because those games are different.
They are.
Oh yeah.
Now, thankfully, there's other hardware. There's the Mister, of course. A lot of our listeners have Misters. I have one behind me, way back behind. It's on a CRT. Of course, it is because it's Mister. But they are very disparate and very niche and hard to function. You've got the mini consoles as well, but ultimately they're emulation stations.
Yeah.
You really want to. A lot of people. I've still got some Amigas that are running, but who knows how long for? That's the point, isn't it? These things that they've been recapped and stuff, but they're going to go as well. This stuff, the hardware's dying. That's the point, isn't it? We are. It's definitely a race against time. So it sounds dramatic, everyone, but it's true. It is a race against time because there's going to be a point when you're going to lose things. But I just want to ask. Unless Jim, you want to expand on what we just talked about there. Just want to ask one more sort of like question in relation to that. The difficulties is. The anti-piracy thing, we spoke about it as the virtual green room before we started recording, there's lots of very subtle anti-piracy devices used in software back in the day. They used the speed and rotation of the floppy drive or the CD-ROM. They did all sorts of weird and wonderful things. Certainly in the early 2000s, there was lots of some very odd draconian methods. Those are obvious, but I'm talking about the ones that are more subtle. Dungeon Master, for example, has a very subtle, you think you're running and you've played it for a couple of hours, all of a sudden the thing starts to, you can't win, everything starts to collapse in on you. Captain Blood is another game that does the same thing. Looks like it's running fine. Oh, we're all good. Oh, no, wait. No, it's doing weird things. Very clever, very subtle. I just want to ask, and it's more of a technical question for Adam, I suspect, but also an emotional one as well from Marcin, in terms of, how do you overcome it? How do you deal with that? How do you make sure that you have covered that? Because it does ultimately mean that you put it in, you copy it and go, okay, we're all good. Are we? So what do you do there?
Well, there are two things that we do that are covering this and solving this problem. One is research.
Yeah.
Every game that we are starting the work in, the first step that is basically a very thorough research about the game, about what it had. Thankfully, we are guys from that era, so we remember about a lot of that stuff. But the first step is the research. The second step is that every game on GOG, every classic game on GOG that we create the build for, which is like 90% of them, has a full playthrough done on GOG by our QA team. So if we missed something, we will find it.
We treat it as a new release, basically.
And that is not only to find, like you've hidden DRM or things like that, but also to make sure that all of the fixes, all of the changes that we made to the game actually didn't break anything inside. And there were a couple of games that there was this famous example. It was, I think, Realms of Arcania. Yeah, I think it's. I think so. So this is a game that is an RPG. It's pretty long. It's like 30 hours. And what happened is basically at the very last battle in the game with the boss, there is an NPC standing in the arena, in the corner. He's not doing anything. He's just standing there. Very weird bug. But okay, you've killed the final boss, all is done. But the game does not end. You're just stuck there in this arena with this small NPC that you cannot interact with. So what basically happened is that there was some kind of issue with the game's memory in which they basically loaded a character to the arena without full statistics, and that character shouldn't be there. And because the trigger was for all of the characters that are not players to be dead, that trigger never happened. So the player was stuck. So yeah, that is one of the reasons we do a full playthrough for all of the classic games that we are releasing on GOG. And actually, for all of those games, the screenshots are actually taken by us. So there is a lot of Easter eggs there. I can tell you that.
Yeah. And also, like ending on the DRM, there is also like the older cases of DRM. For example, text games and stuff like that, where the DRM was actually a part of the experience. So we would be asked at some point, to go and look into the manual to solve something. And if you didn't have a manual, you basically couldn't progress, or you can try to guess what to do. So for those games, we are actually usually preparing two builds. One actually makes you just type anything that you can progress, like basically a crack. And the other one actually needs you to open the PDFs that we provided and look for this stuff. So if you want to play it like all times, then you just use the original untouched version.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah. I mean, you could just, like you said, like the way you sometimes got games have manuals with them, and you can just have a look at that. Go to the page then. It's there.
Yeah,
go on.
That's right.
Off your pop. It's all there.
Yeah.
So I do remember some Lucasfilm games stuff with the pirate.
There are those DRMs like go to the page and type in the word. It's basically like disconnected from the game. But there are
this one we removed. Those we removed.
But there are a couple of games in which this is clearly a part of the experience. Like for example, I forgot which game was it. It was a game that you are basically flying around galaxy, and one of the things that you need to do is basically type in the coordinates of the star or the planet that you are going to, and those coordinates are basically in the manual.
Right.
Or you have some kind of external device that you need to rotate in order to find the exact coordinates of the thing that you're looking for. So those are the DRMs, so to speak, that we do our best to preserve, but also give our players the options, right? You can just play with it or without it.
Yeah. But even that sort of stuff even happened on console to a degree, didn't it? I always remember Metal Gear Solid with the codec on the back of the box.
Yeah.
The famous one. Yeah.
I still have that copy. Of course I do. But no, I think we've definitely covered that. But we're going to sort of like nip into three more questions, and the one we have to cover this because in terms of legalities, what there's something that we've had lots of internal debates within Retro Asylum, and one of my big bugbears is when people say, "I own this game," and I go, "Well, actually, no. What you've bought is a license to use a piece of software." What? Yeah, they can actually take that from you because all you've bought is a license. Do you know what a EULA is? What? Well, it's called an end-user license agreement, and it's really hard to enforce. But technically, when you buy a game, you're just buying a license to use it. The owner of the game or the publisher has every right to withdraw that. It's rubbish and also has anti-consumer rights, but ultimately true. Now, what I've just said is very basic. And I'm sure a lot of lawyers are screaming down the microphones going, utter nonsense, Chris, you can't enforce it, etc., etc. But I just want to raise that point, is that it still exists. You know, the idea of ownership, of property ownership, is a complex one. And but I just want to be wrong of us to sit here and talk about preservation and not address this head on. So how are you finding this? Because I know there are some problems.
Yeah, in general, like the worldwide standard for games that was established is that it's almost always a license. That is true. However, what is different from GOG is basically that we are providing those DRM-free builds that you can basically download and have them stored, and no one will take that from you. So it's a weird situation, but we are only the only platform in which this is possible, and this will always be possible on GOG. Our DRM-free policy is never going away.
And even for newer games, we require them to be playable fully offline.
Yeah,
if it comes to GOG.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I suppose looking into the future, this is going to raise its head. I know there are organisations that are looking to sort of get ahead of the ball on, like, Stop Killing Games is one, isn't it? Where we've got games that are subscription based, and once those servers are switched off, they're trying to get policies in place so that game is still going to be accessible in the future.
Yeah, it is a complicated topic, to be perfectly honest, because for online games, it's even more complex. Because one of the main reasons the online games are no longer there, or the servers are shut down, it's not because the company didn't want to pay the electricity bill. Usually it's because the maintenance of the online experience is very costly, and what is the most costly is actually the security aspect. So you need to make sure that the security is always there, because if, for example, there is a new backdoor found and you are not addressing it in time, you as a company you are liable for all of the damages that your product will cause. That is a huge problem. Yeah. And there is more of that. Whenever you have your online experience, you need to have it moderated. You need to make sure that people are behaving. You have all of those issues that you need to take into consideration. So that is one thing. Like, online games, very, very hard to officially continue supporting. It can be solved semi-officially. Like for example, there's a game called Warhammer Online, the Age of Reckoning. So basically, what happened there is that the source code for the game was semi, not published but made available to the community. And community is basically upkeeping the game. They are even expanding. It's a very, very cool project that is half piracy and something that people support. But in general, I think the consensus is that everyone thinks it's cool, so no one is attacking it, so to speak. But it's very difficult to do for online games. You have Project 1999 for EverQuest, also a community led project that is supported officially in that particular case by the publisher and by the current IP owner. So it's a difficult thing. As for all offline games, currently there is a situation in which offline games are not, within law, are not considered officially like a form of art. Games are a software, and they are living in this weird legal place where they are never part of the public domain, and they are not protected by a lot of laws that are protecting art as a heritage. So, and one of the reasons is because it's fairly new. Games are still fairly new thing. So the hope is that at some point in the future, this will change in a way that we'll be able to preserve games in a way that is actually backed up by the law. Yeah. This is slowly changing because in the last year and in this year there were certain adjustments to the definition to to certain definitions that basically allow, in some cases, games to be considered actually a form of art and be treated by the same and be considered for the same support other forms of art are currently enjoying, like movies, like music, and so on.
Yeah.
So there is a progress, but there is still a lot to be done.
Yeah, the continual struggle of not having game reviews in the tech pages of newspapers and mainstream media is relentless. It's been going on for decades. And I mean, it's like sort of saying, well, a film is created on a camera, so why don't you have? What are you doing? But there's still that feeling of you're picking up a controller or some mechanical device or some device, therefore it's tech. And we'll eventually we'll get there. It's taking too long, but we'll get there. So I want to talk about the laser focus sort of like initiatives that DoD preservation program does. And the last year you did there's Dino Crisis, you mentioned that already, and there's Heroes of Might and Magic 3. Fantastic game. The score on that game, by the way, no one talks about, but the score, honestly, you get to sit there.
From that era, graphics not that great, but the music absolutely phenomenal.
Just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And of course, Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, which I keep forgetting was issued on the PC. I do like reminding people Final Fantasy 7 was released on the PC and 8, but because that's why I played it. Just saying. Yeah. And also, I played Tomb Raider on the PC because I had a PDFX card, so it looked amazing. And
I can see on the you got Silent Hill 1 and 2's on the dream list, isn't it, at the moment?
Oh yeah. It's there. Like our community through the dream list, they were very vocal into letting us know, hey, there are some certain console games that we do really want. So that's actually a good segue to the wish list, because dream list, because this is how we call it, because it really helps us prioritizing our focus to those things. And this also helps in the discussions that we are having with our partners, and we are basically saying to them, hey, it's really worth bringing this game back. Yeah. And showing the wish list votes and the testimonials that are there, like all of those people talking about the title, how amazing it was back in the day. And there are a lot of also games that I really would not expect had such a huge following. Like the games that were 5 out of 10 back in the day, but right now are one of the most wishlisted ones. Like my prime example is Digimon.
Mm-hmm.
We were all at GOG like, what is happening here? What is happening here? Apparently, this game for a lot of people is absolutely amazing.
Okay,
and
takes all sorts.
Definitely will be brought in our discussions, so to speak. Yeah. But it's a no. I'm not trying to confirm anything here or whatever. Just wanted to point out that there are games there that might take a long time to actually bring, but having that information that they are important for that many people is definitely helping us to bring those games to the discussions with the partners that we already have. And maybe with some of those, we will be able to push the levers, so to speak, a bit forward and actually at some point bring them to GOG, because otherwise we wouldn't have any idea that we should be doing that.
Sorry, I was just to say, it just shows where to distribute those resources that you've got. Yeah,
because it's a great beacon, because actually to bring the game from the dead to GOG is a long road. I think that all of the Resident Evils and Dino Crisis took us at least a year, including getting all the agreements and stuff like that, and then working on the bills. We
2 years.
2 years to get it started, and then we started working on the build. So really having community votes, seeing what's what we would say worth it, it's really helpful.
Okay, well, it kind of leads us on to the next sort of question, because one of the reasons you brought you guys in, because we want to connect with our audience, with Retro Asylum audience. And we just want to know, what can we do to help this endeavour? No matter how small, what kind of things can our audience, and indeed myself and Jim, do to actually help you, GOG, to fulfill this extraordinary endeavour?
Yeah, thank you. Like, the first thing is what we already covered. Just come and vote on our GOG Dream List.
Yeah, write stories. Stories are great.
Leave your testimonials there. Yeah. Become part of our community and spread the word about the work that we are doing here. So that is something that would help us a lot. And of course, the obvious, just start your games collection on GOG, because this is the strongest argument, so to speak, that we have for the IP holder. Is the actual numbers of people who were interested enough in their games to actually purchase them. And the more people we have within our community, the stronger our voice will be, and the more people will listen, and the more games that we'll be able to bring, and the more games we will be able to maintain and also prevent from disappearing, because this is also a problem that we are facing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of titles or series of games like Battle Isle, I think, the series of games, they were really good. And also the Mercenary series of games, which did in fact directly influence No Man's Sky, which I know you guys know that, but a lot of people don't know that the Mercenary games, they then led to eventually, because the creator, Hello Games, they went, Mercenary is really good. No one's doing that again. Let's do it again. And everyone didn't understand it, and we all know where we are with that. But what I wanted to say about GOG is always loved it, and it's wonderful I got a chance to tell you directly, is that the way you present the games in your library, the virtual library, is a series of images of virtual shelves with all the game boxes stacked up, because no one's got space to do that. Well, few people, have got space to do that. I do know a few people who've still got their big box games, and there's a whole, subculture of big box PC games. But let's not go. The fact that you replicate that, it's just, you're celebrating the fact that we can't. I know you can't pick these up, but we're trying to give you as close as you can to get that box art, and it's just a lovely touch. And if you don't know that, listener, you really should have a look at how GOG presents the games to you. It's not just a line of text or a little icon that you just click on. It's actually something that celebrates the fact that you're going to fire this game up, and it's definitely a big thing. It's like an event, and I think you've done that over the years. You've definitely infused a lot of effort into that. I'm assuming that's deliberate.
Yes, of course. And actually, thank you for noticing that, because this is one of my favorite parts of GOG and our website.
Yeah, and you also have a great art team that sometimes adjusts the official arts to fit this big box idea.
Yeah, it was like that from the very beginning. Like the idea to actually to give you the sense that you are actually owning a digital collection of those games, and have a wooden shelf, because there are two colors there. One is wooden, and that you have your boxes on. A very cozy feeling with your collection that you almost want to take something to dust it off, or
you always have to dust it off. You always have to. As an owner of lots of board games, I can relate to the dusting. Oh boy,
we should add this as a feature. That we have them out.
You should just like the sun comes in and suddenly plumes of stuff come out. Like, oh boy. And what's lovely is you can look at the top and you read the minimum specs and then laugh like, yeah, right. Because that was another thing, especially on the X-Wing. Like, you can't run that on a 3x6, surely, or worse, a 2x6. No.
And my dream here is that at some point we will be able to have like a shelf 2.0,
right?
With all of those boxes there being 3D.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And that would be absolutely fantastic if we ever come to that point. There is a technology. We actually evaluated it. It looks absolutely amazing.
Right.
But the amount of work it would require from us, it's we would need to be like 2 times bigger to justify that kind of work, while also maintaining a platform and bringing back games.
And there were some weird boxes. Stuff. There was some weird. The Prince of Persia box for that was weird. The weird pyramid thing, and then there was also Tomb Raider had an inverted pyramid you flipped out and stuff. Yeah. The Americans had that, but it's still stunning. And some of the flight sim stuff that was just bonkers. But no,
it's all part of that nostalgia trip, isn't it? That you go on with these games. It's not. Sometimes you don't have to play a game. It can literally just be taking it off a shelf or hearing a soundtrack. So having that digital recreation of that is is what it.
I suppose you could put it in VR as well, but then I had to say it, but no. There are limits. I am playing No Man's Sky in VR. It's fantastic, but that's designed for it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Well, we've reached a very wonderful conclusion there. I can't thank you enough, Adam and Marcin, for your time and your open and honesty.
Very happy to be here.
Yeah, we're happy you're doing what you do, and please do carry on doing that. I'm an avid watcher of the Twitch channel, for example. The variety of people who come on that is fantastic, and always playing something interesting. So if you're not on the GOG Twitch channel, please do check it out because it's just so good.
It's a very nice, cozy community.
Yes.
There.
Yes.
It's really...
It is, despite some of the really weird esoteric games that come up, like, what is this? Did they really release this? Yes, they did. Yes. And the perseverance of the host going, I can do this. I can try and figure this out. But no, wonderful stuff. Thank you for all you're doing, and we do wish you the very best of luck in your future endeavours, knowing you've got an audience of cheerleaders amongst the Retro Asylum people. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for having us. It was a pleasure.
And thanks again, guys, for your time. Yeah,
it was great. Thanks.
Well, that was lovely, wasn't it? A lovely pair of people from GOG.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was good.
I think the enthusiasm and earnestness sort of like burst through the microphone. They really care, don't they?
And I could have just gone into the weeds with it, but yeah.
I think
you realise we can't keep them here all night.
No, but I think I think what really piqued their interest, and they didn't know that people recognise this stuff, but GOG, the way they present the games on your library, they do put them on a shelf. And it's just this nice little touch, and they was going, "Oh, you noticed? Yes, we did." And but that's the kind of attention to detail that was that's why they're so successful and why they are genuinely well regarded within the computer game industry community, I should say. They just, you think, oh, they haven't got that. 9 times out of 10, they do have the thing you're looking for, and that's quite special. The fact it's DRM free is pretty cool. Yeah. And I speak 100%. As someone who's has got a massive Steam library, but also have a massive GOG library as well. Well, should we say goodbye to everyone? Yeah, I would say go check out GOG Dreamlist, like they said in the interview. Go check out the community, the forums that are on there. Go check out all of these other things that we talked about. The Stop Killing Games initiative, the Video Games History Foundation archives. It's all there. Go and have a look. Use it, and people are putting all this time and effort into it. Go out there, use it. Yeah, we'll put links up on the Discord and maybe the show notes or something. But we'll try and. But it should be easy, GOG. Look it up and do the Googles. GOG. Do it. Off you go. Google it or whatever young kids say. The young pups say these days. Bye, everyone. Bye.
From now on, unlike your parents were, you are the secret force of Retro Asylum.
They're playing so fast, they're the only ones who can take you back in time. They play old games, they're more retro than J1 Optimus Prime. At home or the arcade for adventures in a fantasy